accomplishing a world-class feat in a world-class venue, moving every muscle for 21 and a half hours straight, day and night. Swimming through dense fog and jellyfish, fighting hypothermia in water barely above 60 degrees, temperatures in which most people would be given about 8 hours to survive, executing more than 75,000 strokes, being propelled through one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, a total distance of 44 miles, the distance from England to France and back. His name is Dave Parcel. If he makes it, he will become the 16th person in the world, the 4th American, and at age 44, the oldest person ever to double-cross the English Channel. Swimming the English Channel began back in 1875 with Matthew Webb. A bust of his likeness looms like a sentinel over the harbor that was the birthplace of this phenomenon. Historically, some 600 people out of thousands who have tried have actually succeeded. Marcella McDonald was the first American woman to double-cross the English Channel.
A little lady over there put the idea of me swimming a double crossing from England to France and then back to England, because no American woman had done it yet. And for the next 7 years, I've been trying it, and after my 4th try, I was completed. I completed the double last year.
Dover, England, the mecca for swimmers who want to challenge themselves by pitting their bodies and wills against the forces of nature. Claudio Pleat, a world-class professional swimmer, is coaching a potential channel swimmer.
This is such a long swim, and you don't see no England, no France, no land at all when you are in the middle. Only those big boats crossing. Water is very cold, and that's make the channel probably one of the toughest swim in the world. Like many swimmers call it the Himalaya, the Everest of marathon swimming.
Each summer, dozens of people from all over the world make their way to this English shipping port to beat the odds. On any given day, you can see swimmers warming up by swimming the waters of the harbor, getting in last-minute training for the big crossing. Dave Parcel's double crossing of the English Channel had its roots in another swim, the annual St. Vincent's Swim Across Long Island Sound. Each year for the past several years, groups of people have gathered to make the 15-mile swim from Port Jefferson, New York to Black Rock Harbor in Bridgeport. The swim is the signature event of the fundraising effort at St. Vincent's Medical Center to raise money for cancer preventive and cancer patient assistance programs. Dave Parcel has participated as a relay swimmer and was the first amateur to swim continuously from shore to shore. Dave swam the English Channel one way in 2000 and raised $40,000 that was contributed to the Swim Across the Sound. At a St. Vincent's Cancer Survivors Breakfast, Dave announced that this time he would swim over and back and raise $100,000. What kind of man would swim continuously for almost 22 hours in 60-degree water day and night without food, braving jellyfish in one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world? A family man. Dave has 2 children and spends as much time as he can with them. And Dave is a businessman.
Let me email you something.
He's a businessman, but he's not double-crossing the English Channel for money. He's raising money to help people afflicted with cancer. Because this is such a strenuous activity, Dave needs to train. Training is a daily ritual, beginning at 6 a.m. at the Yale Pool, swimming 3 miles per day. Sometimes he even swims twice a day. His coach is in awe of Dave's ability to focus.
Physically, I think that he's just, he's in phenomenal condition. I think there's one thing that makes it the difference is to be able to mentally be able to focus, for basically 24 hours. I mean, some of us have a hard time focusing for 24 minutes, maybe even 24 seconds.
His swimming companions find him an inspiration.
I was so impressed when I found out he was doing the English Channel swim that he raised so much money for the Swim Across the Sound organization for cancer survivors and St. Vincent's Hospital in Bridgeport. So that really impressed me when I learned that. He wasn't just doing it for personal reasons, but to raise a lot of money.
Dr. Dave Lamberti and Mark Gilhooly work with him. They strategize and plan for the big event.
I'm allowed up to 10 minutes on shore.
All right.
It's still part of the time.
Are we able to touch you or bring you things, or do you have to come out to the boat? Or
No, I think you guys can come into shore on the dinghy, and that should be the ideal. Somebody come into shore on a dinghy.
Mark knows the need for trust between he and Dave.
There was a young Mexican girl that drowned. Obviously, her crew didn't recognize what the circumstances were, the conditions were, how she was feeling, and we try to do that every hour when we do the feeding and the drink. We try to get a feel for how he is, what his mental acuity is. That kind of thing is something we're going to be monitoring throughout the whole calendar day that he's swimming. And he has to have the trust and confidence in us and knowing that we're going to be able to do that for him.
Dr. Dave Lamberti knows the sacrifices Dave Parcel must make to accomplish the double crossing.
He has to have medical checkups, a lot of things that Dave has to pass. And I think nobody really could see that. Everybody just looks at the final results, and nobody sees the hours and hours and hours and the sacrifices that Dave has to make in order to basically, he's not living a normal life like we are.
Dave has conditioned himself so well that he can swim for brief periods of time in Long Island Sound, even in the dead of winter, with water temperatures in the 30s and air temperatures in the 20s. The training is complete and the objective is clear. Swim from Dover, England, across the English Channel to Cape Grenade, France, turn around and swim right back to England. A distance equivalent to a little more than that between New Haven and Hartford. After years of preparation and training, a pledge to raise over $100,000 for people afflicted with cancer, and the anticipation of setting a world record, Dave and his crew journey across the Atlantic Ocean to Dover, England, to begin his double crossing of the English Channel. There are several swimmers that congregate at the Churchill Hotel, who all seem to know each other's intentions. Nick Adams from London holds the record as the youngest person to double-cross the English Channel. The night before the swim, a final planning session is held at a pub called the White Horse. The gathering is referred to as the Last Supper.
We'll make sure that we feed him every half hour.
How are you?
Dave gets the word from his boat captain, Reggie, that his swim is on for 4:30 tomorrow morning. It's time to head back to the hotel in hopes of a little sleep. That doesn't really happen as the excitement builds for the following morning. A new tradition of signing the wall by those who were successful channel swimmers is evident. Dave vows to return a couple of days later to add his achievement to the list. 3:30 a.m. comes early, especially after only being in the 6-hour difference time zone for a few hours and following a flight where no one got any sleep.
Yeah, I don't feel too world class right now. I didn't sleep about maybe an hour.
As the team makes its way south to the town of Folkestone, those who will be shipmates for the next 24 hours meet. Reggie, the captain, Ray, his brother and first mate, Norman, the official spotter for the Channel Swimming Association, and Gary, his relief spotter. After reports of an early collision by the Coast Guard and a rather apparent thick fog, Reggie announces they'll try later that day. The group returns but doesn't get much sleep. As it turns out, the fog is a blessing in disguise. as Dave is unable to get his usual concoction to drink during the swim and tries something new. While testing it, he becomes sick. He is able, however, to get the proper powders to mix before the next attempt that afternoon. As the group assembles later in the afternoon at the Churchill Hotel, they meet up with a young man from Texas named Jason. When Jason was quite young, he attempted to swim the English Channel. He didn't make it completely across and vowed he would return to try again. At a time in his life when he was most active, however, he met with a serious auto accident that left him a paraplegic. After years of therapy and training, and given certain allowances, he was back to meet an even greater challenge this time. Afternoon rolls around, and this time the group is ready to go. Reggie brings around the boat for everyone to get on. Loading Reggie's fishing boat, the Viking Princess, is a challenging task. Numerous items must be put on board to augment the crew's tasks to make Dave's swim possible. Everything from clothing, GPS, and liquid nourishment to food and video equipment. There are only about a dozen captains who are licensed by the British government to escort swimmers across the English Channel. Reggie is considered one of the best.
Swam the channel?
Yeah.
Huh?
When? A long time. Mostly before you were born.
No, not that. No way.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Pretty close though.
What years? 1967.
That awesome.
1958. And 1971, I swam it twice. Wow. You swam it all? Quite good. Yeah.
Reggie heads up to an area just south of Dover. After jumping in the water, Dave swims ashore to the beach. The background consists of the world-famous White Cliffs of Dover. With a blast from the horn, Dave begins his epic journey. The all-important conditions are perfect. Waves under 1 foot, and warmer than usual water, about 64 degrees. Everyone begins to settle into a routine that will last for the next 21 and a half hours. Although most of the weather conditions are quite favorable, there is still dense fog. Considering this is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, there is some concern about Dave's safety. Ships' horns can be heard, but the ships are little more than a ghost in the murky atmosphere. It's Norman's job to monitor every move Dave makes.
At the moment, I understand he's stroking 66 strokes, and normally he would stroke at 60. And we're allowing him to get into the swim, thinking maybe at the moment, the two-way, he's a little bit psyched up and needs to calm down. So when we come to the feed, we'll actually tell him what stroke he's swimming at, and if he's happy with that, then he keeps on until he settles into his normal stroke.
A ritual that will be repeated several times begins. Each hour, Dave receives a feeding from his crew of a liquid drink and a gelatinous substance referred to as goo from a tube. It contains painkillers and anti-swelling medicines to keep the swelling in check and lessen the pain of the tremendous strain on his body.
60, 61.
We're doing it next time. I'm figuring it out now. I'm going to talk to Reggie about it. Watch your hand, it's encircled in the rope.
Take plenty in. Take plenty in.
Big
No
stop.
rush. Got great water.
Looking great, David. Looking great.
Real smooth. Take plenty in. Is it mixed up okay?
Perfect.
Atta
Okay,
boy.
very good. Nice job. Nice, David. Keep it going. You're looking great.
It's late in the day, and Dave has been in this 64-degree water for a few hours. Signs of hypothermia are now evident, contrasted in the earth tones of the light spectrum reflected on the water as sunset approaches. Dave's hands and feet have become almost pure white. Hypothermia affects the extremities first. The average person wearing a swimsuit is given only a few hours to remain conscious in water in the 60-degree range. Depending on body fat, age, and level of physical fitness, many people would die of exposure within 8 hours in this water. The swimmers say the key to a successful swim is a good captain. Reggie captains the Viking Princess, and his brother Ray is the first mate. The captain must remain vigilant at all times.
Well, my main job is to look after the swimmer all the time. Keep watch on the swimmer, make sure he's not deteriorating in any way, make sure he's healthy, and just that's the main job really, just keep an eye on the swimmer all the time.
Reggie's boat is a fishing boat. It's a difficult life, as the English Channel is usually a snarly body of water. If you ask Reggie what his life consists of when not escorting channel swimmers, his answer is simple.
Fishing and drinking.
This is Gary's first trip as a channel swimmer spotter.
It's a novelty for me, and dare I say it's being fun at the moment, but I don't know what it's going to be like at 3 o'clock in the morning when we're out here getting cold. That's going to be the big problem. It's nice and warm at the moment, but I think what I'm wearing at the moment is going to be totally inadequate, so it's going to be putting on a few more clothes and keeping warm basically. But I think we're a lot better off than he is as far as the temperature is concerned.
He likes to hear that there isn't much tide pushing him, and he knows he's going to have maybe a little bit shorter run to the first side, and that'll help a lot mentally. You know, mentally it's such a mental game, something like this. So the more positive thoughts we can put in his head, the better it is.
It seems that twilight on the channel comes quickly. The sun sets within the haze and the fog. Reggie starts turning on the lights on his fishing boat, the Viking Princess. Dave continues to swim on into the dark. As the sky gets darker, lights of other boats begin to appear. Feedings and stroking continue as business as usual. The crew continues to be awake throughout the night.
Hey, hold it! Hang tough, back.
The crew members work as a team, counting strokes, mixing Dave's feeding concoction, and boosting his morale.
Dave, where's the goat? Right here. We got it. Take a good drink. Advil and go. Advil and go. Right on top. Take it up in. Take your time, babe. You did great. Drink it down good. You look tremendous. Yeah, I know. Hang in there. What are you going to do? Maybe it'll only happen that time, and that'll be it. You're making very good progress, David. Where are we, buddy? In great shape. Next time, I'll tell you where we are. What we wanted to do, we spent most of our time doing this. 4 hours. You look great. Okay, take care. Go in. Good job, David. Keep it going. A lot of floats and crap.
This is kind of an experiment this time. This is the first time we've used this Powerade. Every other swim he's always had Gatorade and stuck with it. And today there was no Gatorade available in the supermarket, so we bought the Powerade, and so far it's worked good. He hasn't any trouble with it. He's digested it well, and it sounds like it's working, so that's good.
The English Channel becomes dark and seemingly vacuous. The moon replaces the sun, shedding some light on the expanse of ocean between England and France. It's far from quiet, however, on this strait. Ships appear in all directions. There is life on board, passengers and cargoes streaming back and forth between the island and the mainland. Almost all go unaware of the lone swimmer in the water, protected only by the accompaniment of a small fishing boat. Norman explains the strategy employed to use the tides to help Dave accomplish his double crossing.
When it's coming down here, we need to be in a strong position to get down here before the tide starts to run northerly. By coming down on this point, and if we're in that point at the right time, when the swimmer starts to come out, the tide will pick him up and push him straight across.
Wow.
The light at Cap Grenade can be seen. It's still miles and hours away. The temperature is also dropping. Everyone on board changes into warmer clothing. And now, the liquids have to be warm before being offered to Dave.
Feeling okay?
Hello, boy. Is that warm enough? Good?
Fine, feel great.
Good, great. You're looking great.
Reggie's boat is Spartan from a creature comfort standpoint, but is equipped with state-of-the-art navigation equipment. This proves to be invaluable in the dark and the fog. Finally, at approximately 3 a.m., Dave is within a few hundred yards of shore. The Viking Princess cannot proceed too closely to the rocky shore of France, so the crew board a smaller boat piloted by Reggie's crewmate, Ray. This part of the journey is particularly dangerous. According to association rules, the swimmer must proceed to solid land. That means if he approaches a rock and there is water behind that point, in order for it to count, he must keep going until there is no longer any water.
Yeah, just sit on the rock. Yep.
Dave hits the first rock, then slips and cuts his foot and leg. He has to immediately turn around and start back to the other side.
You know what? You don't really want to stand up too long anyway. Because you're stiffing
I'm not standing.
up. No, I know, but I mean, even if you had a good stand.
All right, well.
Okay. Very good.
What do you say we go back to England?
I
Bravo,
think that's a
let's
fucking
go
great
back to
idea.
England.
Let's go, David.
Nice up.
Dave has been swimming all afternoon and all night. It's nearly dawn of day 2.
5 o'clock, 5:30. What time are we now?
4:40.
4:40, so about an hour and a half. The sky's lighting up over there now.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's beautiful.
It begins to become lighter, and the sunrise is visible. Appearing out of the morning fog from every direction are ships that were not necessarily visible during the night. Some pass quite close and are larger than 2 football fields. Ray catches some fish that will be fried up and served as breakfast for the crew.
Breakfast, Reg.
Only the English gentleman on board taking him up on the offer. The rest of the crew has been focusing on the swim and has eaten nothing since the voyage began. Dave has only consumed what has been given to him in regular feedings, which consists mostly of medication and a sports drink. Something that was not predicted has happened. The same tidal current that gave Dave a push towards England is now taking him way out of his way to the north.
Great.
You're about 6.5 miles off.
Wait a minute, we just an hour and a half ago,
What
7.
happened is you got blown further
You got blown further north. Yeah.
But just hang in there. He said the current's
We got
not
the
coming
ebb
with
tide.
you.
You're all right. We got the ebb tide going with us now, so you're going to be all right.
Well, right now we're at 17 hours, and this is the longest that he's gone in any swim. He's never swam beyond 12 hours before in an event, and it's kind of no man's land where we really don't know how he's going to react. But he still looks pretty good, and he's very strong-willed. So as long as he's in control of his faculties and he responds good when we talk to him, we know he's okay.
Dave continues to swim, keeping his stroke rate between 59 and 64 strokes per minute. He has been keeping this up for over 18 hours. something else no one predicted was an overabundance of jellyfish. You may be surprised to learn there are more people killed in the world by jellyfish than by great white sharks. Dave is told by his crew to swim through the jellyfish. He really has no choice, as the tide line extends for several hundred yards. The end result is that Dave is stung repeatedly. That evening after the swim, he suffers an allergic reaction, but for now, he takes the punishment and continues to swim. Dave has been moving every muscle in his body for more than 20 hours. He recalls the inspiration that drives him on in his relentless swim.
I kept thinking about everyone I knew who has suffered from cancer, who has died from cancer, and those still battling cancer. I knew I was helping all the great programs that St. Vincent's Swim Across the Sound does to help cancer victims live a better life.
It's approaching the 21st hour, and everyone is getting weary. Because of the fog, the white cliffs of Dover are not apparent until the swim is almost complete. It is now clear that the current has taken Dave north of Dover Harbor to St. Margaret.
The tide is running out now, and it's pushing us south. And if we get pushed south and he can't land here at the cliffs, we're going to have to go beyond the freight terminal in Dover on the other side of the harbor to land. So that's going to be another 45 minutes to an hour of swimming, and we don't even know how much reserve he has in the tank.
Dave is told to sprint by his crew. He makes up enough time not to have to swim to the south of the harbor. Instead, he prepares his landing beneath the beautiful, world-famous white cliffs of Dover. After 21 hours, 30 minutes, David Parcel enters the record books as the oldest person in history to double-cross the English Channel. That night, the whole crew assembles for a celebration at the White Horse. Dave is given a pen to write his achievement on the wall. Dave boards the high-speed ferry with some of the crew to go back and visit the place where at 3 a.m. the previous morning he had come ashore at the midpoint of his double crossing at Cape Grenade, France. Except for daylight, the shore is not much different than when he stumbled among the rocks at 3 a.m. As he had vowed, Dave returns to address the hundreds at St. Vincent's Swim Across the Sound Cancer Survivors Breakfast, for whom he had raised over $100,000. He's greeted with a standing ovation and the knowledge that he will be entered into the world record books as the oldest person ever to double-cross the English Channel. The production of Double Crossing the English Channel is made possible by a grant from Coca-Cola and the Coca-Cola Bottling Company of New England. Coca-Cola, real.